What's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Travis and welcome back to another video. Today we are going to be cleaning the back glass of the 300-gallon Reef. And yes, I know that I mentioned before that I did not want to do this again, that I probably would never do it again, but I lied to you. Actually, what happened was I was cleaning the tank the other day. I did my water change and I saw it at a certain angle and I was like, oh man, that looks gross. Okay, so basically, there's a lot of coralline algae, but there's also a ton of green algae. Now, nothing crazy that's going to consume any major nutrients or cause any problems with fluctuations with them, but overall, the tank just looks dirty, it looks gross, and you guys will see the before and after throughout this video that it makes a huge difference. Now, if you saw the video I posted the other day, it was actually after this one because I haven't had a chance to do the voiceover, so you guys have already seen what the tank looks like with the back glass clean. But either way, I'm going to show you guys the process here in this video, and trust me, it was a pain. I actually have a couple different size 3D printed glass cleaners. Now I went ahead and printed the larger one, and I still couldn't reach the bottom of the tank. So I had to jerry rig it with some PVC, which actually inspired me to create a PVC razor blade attachment, which I tried out, and this will never be as big as a pain in the butt that it was. Because that attachment is actually pretty great. So thankfully that I went through the struggle, created a solution, and it won't be a problem again. But either way, what a huge pain cleaning this tank. Now, I actually enjoy doing it while the corals are small because it does allow me to get back there and get at certain angles. I remember trying to do it when the tank was completely packed before, if you guys remember that. It was impossible. I broke off a ton of coral, and at that point you kind of got to choose. Do you want back glass clean, or do you just want to break off your colonies? So I chose to keep the colonies, and I let it get dirty over time. But now that the colonies are small, we're regrowing out the tank, this is a good opportunity to clean it and try to keep it cleaned, and hopefully we can prolong that and enjoy it while the tank is growing out. So with that introduction out of the way, I am going to fast forward this process. It did take about an hour, so I'm going to try to squeeze this all into 10 or 15 minutes, hopefully, and show you guys how I did it. So with that said, let's go ahead and get started. All right, guys, let's go ahead and get this show on the road. As I mentioned before, my tool of choice is going to be the 3D printed glass cleaner. I do offer it on my website, 2 different sizes. This, of course, is the larger one, giving me more of a reach. I do only get about halfway down the back of the tank, and I have to use some PVC to extend it. You guys will see that in the video here. But either way, this does work out very, very well for 99% of the tanks. Again, if you're dealing with a 32-inch tall tank, you're going to have to use my other attachment with some PVC because your arms, no matter how tall you are, you're just not going to reach the bottom back glass without knocking colonies or rock structures over. So just keep that in mind. Now, one other thing I want you guys to do while you're cleaning your back glass, which I've made the mistake of not doing in the past, make sure you're turning off your power heads. The last thing you want to do is blow this stuff all around the tank. Our goal is to get it to drop down, straight down, without getting blown around the tank. That way it's easier to siphon out. I know back on the 125, I used to just let the power heads go because I'm like, oh, well, the filter socks will get it. No, the filter socks do not get it. Your power heads get it, your corals get it, and it's a huge mess, and you waste a ton of water trying to clean it all out later on. So power heads off, main return pump on, because this is going to take about an hour, and you don't want to have your return pump off that long. And just get in there and clean off with the razor blade. It's just tedious work. And I'm not looking for perfection here, but I am looking for about 95% of this stuff off. And I could tell you right now, just looking at it the way it is, it already seems to be 1,000 times better. It's cleaner. I can see myself in the reflection. I can see the coral colonies. That's one thing I want to mention too, is that with the back glass being clean, you kind of get a reflection of the colonies. Depending on if you have black background or white or whatever you might have. But a standard background, you get the reflection of the colony, so you the tank looks bigger than it actually is, which is always good, right? So yeah, pretty easy process. Again, time consuming, but hey, that's just part of the process, right? Okay, so now that you guys seen me clean the top half of the tank, it's time to move down to the bottom and my jerry-rigged PVC glass cleaner. Now, this is what I am using, and then I will show you guys here what I've created that kind of solved the problem altogether. So the next time I have to do this, it won't be nearly as difficult, because I will say, even with it being zip tied on there, it was difficult to find the angle. It just wasn't lining up with the PVC, and yeah, I don't have that issue with the new attachment. But either way, it got the job done. It did extend the time significantly, but either way, it did end up getting cleaned in the end. So with that said, going through here with the PVC, the hardest part about this whole process, not only finding the angle with it, but also trying to avoid the colonies. I did break off some green digi and a couple acro pieces in the back, but there was just a stubborn spot behind the middle rock structure that I just couldn't get to, and I ended up, again, breaking off little coral. It does happen. I don't mind a couple frags here and there because I'll just heal them up and sell them, but when I'm breaking off whole colonies, which I try to avoid as much as possible. So again, just time consuming, tedious work, but getting in here with that attachment and getting that very bottom of the tank, that as I'm going through this whole process, you can just see the tank getting bigger and kind of coming to life. The fish are messing around with the coralline, which is fine. I don't know if they really ate any. They were picking up pieces and moving it around the tank, especially the tangs. But overall, just a tedious process, not too bad. And, you know, I really like the way the tank turned out. All right, so I just finished cleaning the back glass. Here's a quick look at the tank before I do the siphoning. And you can see it was definitely a good idea to turn off those power heads because all that stuff fell directly to the bottom, which is going to be super easy when it comes to siphoning. And that's exactly what I want to do. Now, I did set aside about 25, 30 gallons just in case it took a lot more. I am going to take this opportunity to pull out any of the detritus in between the rock structures. I am going to get some out of the sump, which you're not going to see in this video, just because you guys know I am not running filter socks. So there's detritus building up in the sump, at least in the first two chambers. So I'm going to get some of that out. I do pull some detritus out of the low boys. So overall, not having the power heads on, letting all this coralline and algae fall directly to the bottom glass worked out very well and allowed me to take advantage of that 30 gallons. So with that said, let's go ahead and start the siphoning process, fill it back up, and see what the tank looks like. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and get this process started. Now, I do want to mention that there's something oddly satisfying about watching detritus and coralline algae being siphoned out of a tank at like 10 speed. I don't know what it is, but I noticed it in one of my previous videos because, guys, I watch these, but I don't watch them completely through. I just kind of listen to see if I dropped an F-bomb or something that I need to edit out so I don't get demonetized again. So outside of that, I don't really watch the whole video. But I did notice when I was going through this that it actually looks pretty cool that it's being siphoned out. So on another note, let's go ahead and continue the process. So it's really easy. I am going to be pulling all this down to a 55-gallon drum that I have on wheels. As you guys know, that's kind of my whole process for water changes. I have my 35-gallon that sits next to my frag tanks that kind of mixes, stirs, and heats the water. It's right next to my big 160-gallon RO storage. And then when I do my water changes, I just wheel this 55-gallon drum around and I pull out water and then I dump it down the drain or out in the gutter or wherever I can, depending on the season and if there's any kind of ice or anything I got to deal with. But outside of that, very convenient, very easy process for me. As you can see, the coralline algae is getting sucked up real quick. And yeah, I actually, this is probably the best part. I will say that cleaning the glass is not fun, but cleaning out the detritus, it's actually not that bad. Okay, now that we've completed the water change with cleaning the main display, cleaning the sump, and removing detritus from one of the frag tanks, it's time to fill them all back up. Pretty simple process for me as well. I have my 35-gallon storage container attached to the overflow of one of my frag tanks. So once the salt water is heated and also at 1.026, I just turn the valve. All that stuff just flows down into the sump, turn on the return pump, and then fills up the tank. Really easy process, just kind of stuff that I've developed over the last several years, because if it's easy, you'll do it. If it's difficult, you tend to avoid it. So we want to make sure our water changes are easy and convenient. Okay, so the last thing I want to show you guys, which I always enjoy doing, is putting the power heads on at 100% after cleaning the back glass, because it allows it to pick up all the detritus and really get things moving around in the tank. Now, when it comes to flow in this system, we have 2 MP40s and an Apex wave pump on each side of the tank. And I think it comes out to, I think they're 5,000 gallons per, so that's 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30,000 gallons per hour. And I am going to run them at 100% for about 10 to 20 minutes and then put them back on their normal pulsing reef crest wave variations that they might be going through. If you guys want to see a detailed setup of the profiles that I rotate through on my MP40s or my wave pumps, let me know. I will make a separate video. But either way, I'm going to let the tank pick up all this detritus. Now, I did go ahead and change out the filter socks because, of course, we want to catch as much of this as we possibly can. Skimmer's running as normal, no overflowing or no issues with that. And I'm going to let it run for about 24 to 48 hours, and I will show you the video of what it looked like after that. But either way, again, this is a pretty easy process. Again, time consuming, that's about it, but I will say that it's 100% well worth the wait. So moving on to that, this is what the tank looked like 48 hours later. And as you can see, it's night and day difference. It's so much better. It really is. And while we're looking at the tank, I do want to mention one thing that you guys should take in consideration when cleaning the back glass. And I probably should have mentioned it earlier, but I'm not going to go back and re-edit all that. So with that said, the number one issue you're going to run into when cleaning your back glass is having alkalinity spikes. Now, what I mean by that is our back glass is where we grow a lot of coralline algae. Now, if you're new to the hobby or you're not aware of this, coralline algae consumes calcium and alkalinity just like coral. So if you were to remove all that coralline algae, what's going to consume that alkalinity and calcium? Nothing. So one thing I do recommend is if you are going to clean your back glass and you have a ton of coralline, you can either do it in stages, maybe every other week. But if you're going to do it all at one time, because I personally could not do that, I could not look at half the tank clean and the half not for a week or two. It's not possible for me to do that. So what I would say is test your alkalinity the day of, and then monitor it closely, either with a manual testing with a Hannah checker or with your Trident, and just be ready to dial down whatever method you're using to add calcium and alkalinity. So either your calcium reactor or your 2-part, whatever you might have, be ready to dial that back just temporarily while the tank adjusts to not consuming as much, because the last thing you want to do is pull out all the coralline algae, the tank looks great, and then you get a huge alkalinity spike because you're no longer consuming it, and then you start killing off all your coral. So just keep that in mind, and you should be good to go. But outside of that, guys, hopefully you enjoy the video. Again, I'm going to try to move back to the old school voiceover and try to get into the tank more, because that's kind of really where this channel should be. And we'll go from there. So if you want to support me, head over to fishofhex.com. Ton of stuff going on. Buy 3, get 1 free on all coral, all 3D printing. We got a bunch of buy 1, get 1 free on coral. If you want to support my secondary channel, Hex Jitsu, if you want to follow my journey on that, feel free. There will be a link in the description. And that's it. I'm done rambling. I appreciate every one of you guys and girls, and I'll see you later. All right, peace.